bipolar disorder. And no, this isn't just about being moody. This is about your brain sending you on a wild ride, swinging between two completely opposite poles that you have absolutely no control over. You've got the dizzying, rocket-fueled high of mania on one side and the crushing low of depression on the other.
So let's talk about that manic high. It's like your brain is just flooded with this superhuman energy. Imagine sleeping for maybe 2 hours and feeling absolutely incredible, ready to conquer the world. Your thoughts are just racing, you're having these world-changing ideas, and those super risky decisions, they don't feel risky at all. They feel like strokes of pure genius. It's this intense, powerful, but also really chaotic feeling of being on top of the world.
And then the crash. Just like that, it stops. The high collapses, and you're plunged right back down into that depressive low. All that superhuman energy, all those brilliant ideas, gone. Replaced by that profound emptiness. And what makes it even heavier is that now you remember what it felt like to fly. Okay, let's move on. Now we're going to talk about the echo of fear. Disorders where the brain's fear response is essentially broken. Here's a way to think about it. Imagine your smoke alarm goes off with the same deafening, panicked intensity for burnt toast as it does for an actual house fire. That's kind of what we're dealing with here. With generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD, that alarm system we just talked about, it's basically stuck in the on position, permanently. Your brain treats every little everyday situation like it's a code red emergency, flooding your body with stress hormones. It's absolutely exhausting, physically and mentally, to be in a constant state of high alert. You know, people always say things like, just stop overthinking, or just calm down. But this comparison here just nails why that doesn't work. Telling someone with an anxiety disorder to just calm down is literally like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk normally. It doesn't make any sense. The very system in their brain that's supposed to regulate calm, that's the part that's malfunctioning. Now, let's talk about PTSD, because there's a huge misconception here. This is not about someone just dwelling on the past. It's a fundamental system failure where the brain's survival mode gets stuck and never turns off. The trauma isn't just a memory you think about. For the brain, it's a current event. It's happening right now, and it forces you to relive it again and again. And that brings us to this point, which is so important to understand. Flashbacks are not like regular memories. They're not like just thinking about a bad day. They are vivid, physical, full sensory re-experiences. A certain sound, a smell can instantly snap you back to that moment, and your body, your mind, your entire being believes you are in mortal danger right now. All right, for our last section, we're going to look at the mind's unwanted loops. These are conditions that can trap a person in these really exhausting, repetitive cycles of thought and action. So let's start with obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD. You can think of it like a two-part trap. First, you get this intrusive, unwanted, often terrifying thought stuck in your head on a loop. That's the obsession. Then your brain basically screams at you that you have to perform some kind of ritual, the compulsion, to prevent some horrible catastrophe from happening. And maybe you get a second of relief, but then the loop starts all over again. And this is a big one, because we hear people casually say, "Oh, I'm so OCD about being neat." But real clinical OCD is torture. It's not about loving organization. It's a state of absolute suffering. The person knows logically that checking the lock 15 times is irrational, but the fear, the anxiety, is so overwhelming that they feel like they literally have no other choice. Okay, and finally, let's talk about ADHD. A lot of people think ADHD means you just can't focus on anything, but that's not quite it. It's really an inability to regulate your focus. Someone with ADHD can absolutely hyperfocus, like intensely, for hours on something they find interesting. The problem is, their brain will physically resist. It feels like a brick wall when it comes to starting a task that it decides is boring. And this right here, this is the daily reality of what's called executive dysfunction. You know exactly what you need to do, but then your brain just refuses to start. So you get distracted by something more interesting, and suddenly hours have passed, and then boom, panic sets in because the deadline is right there. It's this huge, frustrating gap between intention and action. It's an exhausting, constant internal battle against your own brain. And really, that's the one big thing that connects everything we've talked about today. Whether it's the emptiness of depression, the constant alarm of anxiety, or the torturous loops of OCD. These are not choices. They're not failures of character or willpower. They are real, often debilitating conditions rooted in how the brain works. Okay, let's move on to our next section. We're now going to look at disorders where that internal emotional compass becomes really unstable, sending you spinning in these wild, uncontrollable directions. This is such a critical point to understand. Depression isn't just being very sad. Sadness usually has a reason. Depression, on the other hand, is a neurological condition that just drains all the color from the world, leaving behind this profound numbness. Hobbies you used to love feel pointless. Food might taste like nothing, and your own mind starts telling you that this gray, empty feeling, well, this is all there will ever be. Bipolar disorder is like a journey between two incredibly extreme poles. You have the manic high, which can feel amazing. You're flooded with energy, ideas are racing, you feel almost invincible, but it burns way too hot. And then comes the crash. The depressive low is just as extreme, but in the complete opposite direction. It's a crushing void where all that energy is gone, and the memory of the high just makes the emptiness feel even heavier. BPD is often described as living life with no emotional skin. So where a small event might cause a little ripple for someone else, for a person with BPD, it can trigger an emotional tsunami. This leads to this terrifying core fear of abandonment and a tendency to see people and yourself in these black and white extremes. People are either perfect or they're terrible. Your very sense of who you are can feel like it's shifting from moment to moment. It's like living in a constant state of emotional crisis. Now, we're going to turn to disorders that aren't necessarily about a system that was always broken, but a system that was broken by an event. This is about trauma, that lingering echo of a terrifying experience that gets stuck in the brain and just won't fade. With post-traumatic stress disorder, the mind doesn't file the traumatic memory away as something that's in the past. That alarm system we talked about stays on, and the brain keeps replaying the event as if it's happening right now, through vivid flashbacks and nightmares. You're trying to live in the present, but your entire nervous system is trapped in the worst moment of your life. When childhood trauma is so severe that the brain can't process it, it can do something pretty remarkable just to survive. It compartmentalizes. And dissociative identity disorder is the result. It's not about being multiple people. It's about being one person whose identity has fragmented into parts. The experience from the inside is profoundly disorienting, like losing hours or even days with no memory, finding things you don't remember buying, or being told you did things you have no memory of. It must feel like you're a stranger to yourself, just a passenger in your own life. Okay, in our final section, we're going to look at disorders where the fundamental experience of reality itself becomes warped, where it becomes incredibly difficult to even trust your own mind. Schizophrenia is so often misunderstood. It's helpful to think of it in two main parts. You have the positive symptoms, and positive doesn't mean good. It means experiences that are added to reality. Things like hallucinations, hearing voices no one else can, or holding these unshakable false beliefs called delusions. And then you have the negative symptoms. These are human abilities that are subtracted, like a loss of motivation, emotional expression, or even the ability to have a coherent thought.